Hey, Panthers fans. Today is Wednesday, April 6th. This is a new episode of In the Box, a Fifth Line 5-hour show presented by the Five Reasons Sports Network, where we talk everything Florida Panthers hockey. I'm your host, Alex Baumgartner, and I'm joined with Jamie Goldman from the Five Reasons Sports Network, as always. And we got a lot to talk about on this recap show. If you didn't watch the game last night, we're here to break it down for you. Panthers play the Toronto Maple Leafs, two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Atlantic Division standings are 1 and 2 right now. Toronto came out hot. You could see their rush. They were extremely explosive off the rush. Their power play was scoring as usual. They went up 5-1 against the Florida Panthers. And even though we saw the Panthers come back 6-2 against New Jersey just on Saturday to win 7-6, we didn't really know what was going on. This is a different beast of a Toronto team compared to New Jersey. Well, as Jamie will tell you, they did it again. The Panthers came back and won the game 7-6. Another 4-goal deficit they overcame. And even though the Panthers don't really want to be in that situation, they got it done.
Yeah, when they went down 5-1 last night, I didn't think they could do it again. Even though it happened against New Jersey a couple games ago, I didn't see them coming back the way they did against a team a caliber like Toronto is. But they came out and they did. They proved me wrong. Couple power play goals. The one that really got it going for me was the Gudas penalty kill goal. That was amazing. It was a little fluky, but you know what? You need one of those every now and then, especially in a comeback like that. Also, I think when Andrew Brunette pulled Bobrovsky, it happened in the Devils game, and then he did it again against Toronto last night. I really think it woke the team up in both of those games, because right after the goalie gets pulled, you see a surge of offense coming from Florida, and it really seems like the team took that as a wake-up call and said, hey, we need to start scoring some goals. We need to start producing some offense.
Yeah, well, it's funny. 1-1 after the first period. The second period was 5-1 Toronto and 5-4 Toronto by the end of it. Bobrovsky played a really good first period. I mean, he was stopping breakaways. The Panthers' defense, their gap control wasn't there. Three times that period, Toronto went right through the middle of the gap. The Forsling-Weegar pair really didn't look that good the first two periods. Michael Bunting, couple chances. Ilya Mikheyev, a couple chances. Toronto has speed off the rush. They're one of the best offensive teams off the rush in the league, as are the Panthers. But yeah, the gap control really wasn't there. Bob stood on his head for that first period. Second period, right away, out of the gates, Toronto scores 3 goals in, I think, 2 minutes and 4 seconds. The goalie change Brunette said in the press conference yesterday, it was a spark kind of change. Like, they were trying to get the spark going. And that's exactly what happened. As you know, you pull your goalie, the team they light a fire under you. You got to start going now. And I think they had 20 shots that third period, so they were firing on all cylinders. As you see, 49 shots for the Panthers, 35 for the Leafs. That game was crazy from the jump. Both teams scored, I think, 2 power play goals, a shorthanded goal, and they both had goalie changes. Now, Toronto's Calgren, after the third goal, he got hurt. They pulled him. Jack Campbell, who's just been on injury for a while, was played in the Tampa game the night before, had to come in. And, Florida, he stayed the rest of the game, and then Florida scored a couple on him, getting the win. But a couple milestones last night. Jonathan Huberdeau becomes the first Florida Panthers player in franchise history to hit 100 points in a season. Obviously, he overtook Barkov's 96 in a season just a few games ago. Him and Barkov down the stretch were extremely explosive in the comeback, and Claude Giroux did get his first goal as a Panther to kind of spur that with a 5-4 goal with a couple minutes left in the second.
Yeah, you love to see it. As Panther fans for years to come, I think you're going to see Huberdeau pass Barkov and then Barkov pass Huberdeau. Like, I think they're going to be back and forth, when it comes to Florida Panthers all-time rankings. And then you also alluded to a couple other milestones. One thing I want to mention, the Panthers have 6 20-goal scorers already, and we still have a couple weeks left in the season. That's something very impressive, and it's something that you don't see because so many of these teams around the league have high-powered offenses, but it's really just a couple guys. In Florida, you have 6 guys, and I'm not even including Claude Giroux or Aaron Ekblad, that have 20 goals already this season. So it really just goes. Go ahead, Baum.
No, just saying, like, Giroux has 19, so he's going to hit most likely got, 12-something games left. He'll probably score 1 more goal put him at 20. And as you said, Ekblad has been hurt for the last couple of weeks. He'll be back for the playoffs, most likely. 15 goals. Lundell missed a lot of time, also 15 goals. Marchment missed some time, 15 goals. So you have multiple players with at least 15 goals on this team. That's 10. That's 10.
Yeah, I mean, it really just goes to show the firepower of this offense and how we're not top heavy at all as a Florida Panther team. The Panthers, they're deep. They have guys up and down the lineup who can score goals. I mean, you think about the heavy hitters with Barkov and Huberdeau and Giroux, but I mean, you see guys like Gustav Forsling's been scoring goals lately. You got Montour scoring goals lately. Fourth liners like Ryan Lomberg providing sparks. This whole lineup, when it wants to, when it turns it on, there's nothing that can stop it.
Yeah, obviously we know this team can score. They're putting up historic numbers that we haven't seen since the electrifying 90s when teams were just scoring a ridiculous amount of goals. That's also the era where you would see Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, probably the best goal-scoring era in the NHL. You know, defense are better now. Goaltenders are better now than they were in the 90s, obviously. Players are faster, too. So, you know, you can kind of toss up in the air, how's it going? But, yeah, there's no problem with the goals. Now, we've also seen the Panthers concede, 4, 5, 6 goals multiple times. And that begs the question is the defense gelled enough for the playoffs? And obviously, we know that Aaron Ekblad should be back for round one. They have new additions like Sherratt and Haig. But you also can't go down 6-2, 5-1, not in the playoffs. And as much as you want to score your problems away, sometimes that's not the possibility. And also, who's the goalie come playoff time? Because that's also something.
Yeah, like you alluded to, you can't be getting in these holes come playoff time. I mean, it's great that they've been able to come back from down 4 goals twice now, but you can't make a habit of something like this. And you mentioned the defense, and I really think that Aaron Ekblad injury came at the absolute worst time for the Panthers because he gets hurt, and then right away the Panthers bring in Sherratt and Haig. So you bring in 2 guys, you lose 1 guy. That's a 3-person swing when it comes to the defenseman, and these new guys are coming in trying to gel with the other defensemen, and then you're going to have Ekblad come in come playoff time, hopefully, and then he's going to have that little adjustment period to get used to playing with Sherratt and get used to playing with Haig. I mean, I would think that Burnett probably wouldn't put a pairing with Ekblad and Haig or Ekblad and Sherratt just because they haven't played together.
It's probably gonna go back to Weegs look like a different defender without Ekblad. He doesn't look like the same guy. They tried to play him with Sherratt a little bit. That really wasn't working out. The Gustav pairing was a lot better. They didn't look the strongest the first 2 periods last game. When Weeger's with Ekblad, there's really it's almost like a 1A, 1B when they're playing together. Whereas without Ekblad, the defense isn't necessarily the same. And now, as we mentioned, 2 straight seasons, you kind of see the jump from Gustav Forsling. Brandon Montour has been having a pretty good season. I think Radko Gudas has really kind of just shut it down and, locked it in this year as well. There might be an adjustment period when he gets back to skating, but Aaron Ekblad's a gamer, and I think he'll be just fine. Haig's probably the guy that comes out in this top 6 when Ekblad's back. They're not going to take Sherratt out, and I don't see how you can take Gudas out, so I think that's your top 6.
Yeah, Gudas has played 68 games this year, so I don't see him coming out of the lineup come playoff time.
And he brings that physicality you need in the playoffs. He's the best hitter in the NHL.
Especially come playoff time. I mean, he brings that physical presence, like you mentioned. And, yeah, I think Haig is the odd one out. But you never know what other injuries are going to come about, so it's good to have that depth defenseman on the roster. And Ekblad, yeah, I mean, I agree. Like you said, he's a gamer. I think he'll come in strong come playoff time. And then you mentioned the goaltenders. That's a tough subject because all season long, you look at the numbers, Bobrovsky's had a little bit better numbers. He's got the 914 when Knight only has a 904. But lately, Bob's been a little bit shaky, and Knight's come in and he shut the door. So that definitely brings an interesting question for Brunette come playoff time.
We got some comments here. I know I'm nitpicking, but with the playoffs coming up, should I be concerned with Bob and our defense, or 2 of the last 3 games outliers? So here's my thing. You look at the record. There's 33-6-0. Bob has a pretty good save percentage. The goals against average isn't terrible. Right before that Devils game, he had probably the best game I've seen him play in a Panthers uniform. The first period of that Toronto game was just extremely electric. Also, I didn't even see the donation. We appreciate that so much, Adam. Be glad it's coming now and not coming in the playoffs. When before Knight went to the AHL, he also gave up a couple 7-goal games, a couple high-scoring games. He came back in, and he's had to come in relief quite a bit. Also, when Bob had the injury, when he took the puck off the face on the bench on the road trip, Knight played really good. I think they went 3-1-1 on that 5-coast West Coast string. So I think that the defense and the goaltending is something obviously for concern. We know this team can score, and there were some things that we mentioned that I didn't like in the last game. I thought they were backing up too much in the second period when Toronto came in on the rush, whereas Toronto was kind of gapping up a little bit more until the Panthers started going. So you can't let teams walk in on you. And when you have a team like Toronto or you have a team like Tampa, when they have electric forwards in the playoffs, they're going to come with everything they have off the rush. They're going to try and set up in your zone. So I think the defense needs to shut it down a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't blame that tough performance last night on Bob. I think a couple of them were shaky, but then again, he was getting pumped with shots. And then like you mentioned, the gap defensively was tough, wasn't strong. And then a couple of them, like they had one breakaway goal where it was kind of an offensive zone turnover, and then Weegar kind of fumbled it, and then they ended up scoring. You can't really blame that one on Bob either. I mean, that one's a breakaway goal. It's tough to see Bob getting a little bit shaky come right now, but like you mentioned, it's a good thing. Get it out of your system now. Knight had some struggles earlier in the year. He went to the AHL. It looks like he's straightened that out a bit. And I think these goaltenders, I think it's good that we have two viable options come playoff time. If it were me, I would start with Bob just because he's the vet and he's the guy that you're paying all the big bucks to. But I would keep a short leash on him for sure.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. And, the big question with Bob is, can he do it in the playoffs? We saw him do it with Columbus when, they swept Tampa. Florida, it hasn't been the same story. Now, if he plays like how he's played the majority of the season where he can let in like 2 goals, Florida's going to score more than 2 goals, right? They'll probably score 3 a game in the playoffs. I think Florida's the only team to not get shut out this season, them in St. Louis. Those are the 2 teams. Offense can get it done. Goaltending needs to be there. The defense really needs to be there. If Ekblad's back by round 1, that's going to be a huge help because that defense looks extremely different with him on the back end. I think everyone plays a little bit better. There's a little bit more sense of security, but also you got to have to work with what you got. And there's other teams in the league too where, their goaltender might not have as short of a leash, but they don't have a good backup as good as Spencer Knight, I think. So that's another thing.
Yeah, that's huge. Like I mentioned, it's good to have Spencer Knight back there. I mean, on a lot of teams in this league, they'd love to have a guy like Spencer Knight. They'd probably start Spencer Knight. He's been putting up over a .900 save percentage this year. He's got a winning record. He's got an under 3 goals against average. Like, those are solid numbers for a young goaltender like Spencer Knight. And he's been in and out of the lineup. He was a little bit shaky earlier this year. So it's really great to see that come playoff time. But the struggles from Bobrovsky, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, he'll be able to straighten out. He'll get in the net and hopefully string together some good games. And come playoff time, hopefully they'll both be hot.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about goaltending all we want, but also when you've given up multiple, the first goal of the game over the last couple of games, like there's like a 10-game stretch where it was like 6-7 times I can remember. The Panthers were conceding really early on the first couple shots of the game. They did it against New Jersey, first 2 shots they were in. They need to have that jump from the get-go, that third period jump, that comeback jump. They need to bring it out of the gates. Now, come playoff time, every team kind of has a little more jump in their step. So you would hope the Panthers really up from the puck drop, and 60 minutes. It's a 60-minute hockey game plus. You got to be going the entire 60 minutes, not decide to play with 25 minutes left in the game. But the Panthers are first place in the Eastern Conference. They have a 6-point lead on Carolina with the same amount of games played. Carolina has 98 points. Florida has 104. Even though they're in different divisions, when you're looking at seeding, you'll end up with a Washington instead of a Boston, Toronto, or Tampa if you get that first seed, most likely. The West Coast, it's Colorado, they're going to win that division. I also don't necessarily want the President's Trophy, but that's another discussion that we can talk about later.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you were talking about with the slow starts. I don't think that has a lot to do with goaltending. It's really a whole team thing. I mean, you got to come out strong. You got to come firing in the offensive zone, especially come playoff time. But another thing, I don't know what Andrew Brunette says in between periods, but he must be quite the wizard with motivational speaking, because they've come out and shown that they can come back from a 4-goal lead like it's nothing. We play Washington more round one. We can afford to give Ekblad more time to heal, in my opinion. I don't know about that. I would like to get Ekblad in as quickly as you can, especially come playoff time. I mean, if he's good to go, you want Ekblad in the lineup. He's probably your best defenseman.
See, I wouldn't count any team out in the playoffs. I've seen multiple first seeds get knocked out in the first round. And I haven't said this publicly, but when I first watched Washington play Florida, I said that would be an interesting matchup in the playoffs. That's a matchup that, it could, like, this was the early onset of the season. I was like, Washington at that point is a decent looking matchup. So if Ekblad's ready to go, they're going to throw him in there.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, I wouldn't count any team out, especially not Washington. I mean, they won a few years ago, and you look back a couple years back, the LA Kings ended up winning the Stanley Cup as the 8th seed in the league. So, if you're good enough to
St. Louis was last place come All-Star break or January 1st, and then they won the Cup.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you're good enough to get into the tournament, I mean, we just saw March Madness. It's a different analogy, but if you're good enough to get into the tournament, you can't take them lightly, Like, the playoffs right around the corner. It's an 82-game season, so, like, there's a bit of longevity with that. Like, no team is just sneaking into the playoffs, really. Like, you have to have a substantial amount of wins and a substantial amount of points.
The Eastern Conference specifically. The West, we could say a team might be able to sneak in just because of how tight that wild card race is, but the Eastern Conference, that 1 through 8 is pretty set unless Washington goes on a losing streak and the Islanders just win out, basically.
Yeah, it would take something pretty catastrophic for any of the top 8 teams in the East to not end up making the playoffs. It's pretty set in stone, like you said. The Panthers have a bit of a cushion right now on Carolina, but no reason to stop the gas pedal right now. You got to keep it going, especially going into the playoffs. You want to build up that momentum, string together some wins, start feeling yourself, start feeling good about yourself, and enter the playoffs with some momentum.
Yeah, so last time we did one of these shows, it was kind of right when Claude Giroux and Ben Sherratt and Robert Hay all made their it might have been before their debut for Florida or right after their debut. Giroux scored yesterday, but he's been really good just face off, helping out on the penalty kill, kind of setting up that power play too. He's been getting a lot of assists as well. It was really cool to see him get that first goal, kind of get the boulder off your back and start going forward come playoff time.
Yeah, that was a huge goal for Giroux, especially in the midst of probably the best game of the year. Not even just for the Panthers. I'd say league-wide, that was probably the best game. 2 top teams in the East, like an incredible comeback like that, a ton of goals. My vote for game of the year might be a biased opinion. I don't know. I like it. But yeah, you love to see Giroux have a goal in that big-time comeback. And he's been dishing out a lot of assists, like you said. He's been good on the penalty kill. He's been good in the face-off circle. He's been exactly what the Panthers got him to be. He slotted in on that first line. He has bounced around the line a little bit just because Brunette hasn't really figured out what his lineup's going to look like yet. But he's been everything that you could ask. He finally got that monkey off his back, like you said, and it's go time. It's go time if you're these Florida Panthers and Giroux.
And what I think that, I've seen a little bit of comments about Brunette and his coaching style. What I really like about him is he is really not afraid to throw someone off a line or throw someone on a different line. You'll see if Ryan Lomberg's playing good, Ryan Lomberg's playing minutes. If Claude Giroux is needed on the second line at center, they're going to put Giroux at center, and they'll go Duclair, they'll go Bennett. They'll go Reinhart on the second line. They'll throw people around, and I don't think there's going to be set lines in this playoff. It's like a rotation in basketball. Who's hot, they're going in. You're not going to sit someone that's hot for a starter when the starter can't do anything. I think you're seeing I think these line combinations, I think these moving of defensemen, moving of forwards, heck, switching goalies when you need a spark. I like what Bruno's been doing recently. And come playoff time, that's going to happen a lot more. when the team's cold, they're gonna front load a line. They're gonna put Barkov with Huberdeau. It works when they need a goal, and it's not like they need to have them together the entire time. So it's nice that they're kind of experimenting now, see who has chemistry, because you only got a little bit of time before the dance really starts.
Yeah, I really liked your analogy with the basketball rotation because I think they're kind of going away with the traditional 4-line, 6 defensemen, 2 pairs, 3 lines type thing. I really think that, like you mentioned, like they're starting to slot in guys that are hot, like a Lomberg's hot, like a Reinhardt's hot, whatever it may be.
I mean, like yesterday they threw Bennett with Huberdeau and Giroux, and then they scored.
Right. I mean, you're already starting to see some experimentation, and like you mentioned, like if the goaltender's not playing well, we're gonna pull him. We have in his mind, like we have 2 viable goaltenders that can go in and play at any time. So if you're not cutting it, we're gonna turn to the second goaltender. I really like that from him because not only does it create a spark, but it also holds your players accountable. It lets them know that their spot is not guaranteed, no matter who you are, no matter what your name is. If someone lower in the lineup is producing more than you and doing more on the ice, they're going to see more ice time. And I really like that in a coach.
I mean, I don't know if anyone brought this up, but I remember in the Devils game, Duclair had 2 goals, but then he took that penalty, and I think New Jersey might have. I don't know if New Jersey scored, but he took a penalty at a pretty rough time, and there was like 5-6 minutes I didn't see Duke out there. I'm looking at the bench. He's sitting in the middle. He was the only guy on the bench actually sitting. And usually when you're in the middle of the bench sitting down, that means he got benched. So I don't know if he got benched or not, but the fact that I think he wouldn't have a problem with benching a guy that scored 2 goals in the same game after a dumb mistake, I don't think enough people are giving him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little early in his career to compare him to this, but I mean, you used to see that with Bill Belichick. When players would get penalties in big-time spots, it would get benched and sometimes even cut. So I really like that initiative from Brunette and just really holding players accountable, even if they do have a couple goals, even if they are on a hot streak in recent games, whatever it may be. I really think Brunette says it's all about what you're doing for me lately. And if you're taking penalties and not playing smart, then I can't afford to have you on the ice. And I really like that.
As much of a winner Bill Belichick is, I don't know if the Dolphins fans at 5 Reasons or any of the fans of the network would be too happy that we're comparing our potential savior in the playoffs as a coach to Bill Belichick, the most hated coach in Miami.
Hey, hate him as much as you want. You've got to respect his talent. I mean, the guy ran the NFL for about 20 years. Us Dolphins fans know better than anyone. Come on now.
Yeah, so let's look ahead now. Florida has 12 games left in the season. Their next matchup is against the Buffalo Sabres. Yeah, so you get Buffalo one more time, and then you get Nashville on a back-to-back. So you're playing at home, and you're flying to Nashville. You got a couple days off. You got Ryan Getzlaf's last game at FLA Live Arena because he is retiring. So you got Buffalo. You have Nashville, who is, I think, in a playoff spot. Then you have Anaheim, Winnipeg. You got Detroit. You got a couple matchups against non-playoff teams. And you get Toronto, Tampa, Boston, Ottawa, Montreal. You got 5 divisional games to end the season. And then it's playoff time.
Yeah, I really like that stretch of Toronto, Tampa, Boston, right leading into the playoffs.
Because right by that Boston game, we should Tampa, Boston. We should probably know who has that first seed in the Atlantic.
Yeah, we probably will know by then. But even so, it's still good to just get a taste of divisional opponents come right before the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then, like you mentioned, the other 2 games on that schedule are also Atlantic Division opponents. I'm not loving the fact that the Panthers are ending the season on a back-to-back, but it is what it is.
Back-to-back against non-playoff teams. That's a trap game.
Yeah, those are a couple of trap games. You got Bomber.
If you need the wins, like if you're battling Carolina for first, that's a trap game in my opinion.
Absolutely, and both on the road in Canada, so not much of a travel day there, and you're gonna have to play back-to-back second night. That could be a tough stretch to end the season, but like you mentioned, after that, it's playoff time, and it's hard hats on, time to go.
Exactly. So Panthers have clinched a playoff spot. They're the only team in the East to have clinched a playoff spot. Colorado has clinched in the West. Now, the reason why I said I don't want the President's Trophy 8 teams have won the Stanley Cup after winning the President's Trophy. That's a pretty terrible percentage. Last time was Chicago in, I think, 2013. So it's almost 10 years since a team has won the Cup after leading the league in points. So I wouldn't hate if Colorado finished with one more point in the West. I wouldn't hate it.
Personally, I want the President's Trophy. The old saying goes, you're never cold, you're either hot or due, and I think the President's Trophy is due to win the Stanley Cup, personally.
They hide the President's Trophy in the back corner of the Hockey Hall of Fame. There's an insight for you.
Well, I think it's time to change that narrative, and I think the Florida Panthers are the perfect team to do it.
Well, we'll see about that. We got 12 games until the President's Trophy is wrapped up, 12 games until the Atlantic Division and the Eastern Conference is wrapped up. Playoff tickets go on sale Friday. I got mine. You got yours? Florida Panthers fans, we'll be bringing you a lot more content come playoff time and down the stretch here at the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Check us out here on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you turn on those post notifications. Make sure you swing over to Twitter. Follow us at 5 Reasons Sports and follow our Panthers Twitter at 5line5R, where we bring you game updates, game reports, and pretty much everything you need for game day. From Alex Baumgartner and Jamie Goldman, 5 Reasons Sports, 5line5R crew. We'll see you guys next time here on In the Box.